This story links Gauguin, sexism, and Down syndrome. We summarize here a series of explorations that, to our surprise, involved this very famous artist, a portrayal of an individual with a facies which is nowhere else mentioned, and we presume represents an instance of Down syndrome linked also with sexism. So the discovery started in the Montgomery Museum of Fine Arts. And here it is. This is a print attributed to Gauguin. It's a detail, and the face we will describe later. What surprised us furthermore is that we could not find citations about this work in literature related to Gauguin's art or to medicine in relation to the face. Interestingly, Gauguin called this a series of etchings or zinc plates, human misery. Now, Gauguin is an interesting historic figure. He was personally tutored by a bishop of Orleans, and that left a lifelong penchant by Gauguin to mix sainthood and religious thoughts with his nature. He certainly was considered by many to be a devil of a fellow, and he knew it, as shown in here. Here are the apples of temptation, and here is the evil or the devil, and he's playing both ends. And this is an example why in many literary reviews of his life, some call him a moralist and others call him a devil. He certainly thought that Tahitian women were far more attractive than European ones, and he painted many nudes of this sort. Some accuse him of having been a sexist. And here again this duality, here is this religiosity, this is Hail Mary, but also these two nudes fit with his definition that beauty is the only religion, beauty is godly. Here another depiction of the birth of one of his many children. We don't know how many legitimate he had. We do know he had many mistresses in Tahiti, and this one that delivered was barely over 15 years of age. This work is known as Tahitian Nativity, for the religious overtone indicated in this part of the painting. In any event, in our humble opinion, this is a facies, which means it speaks to us, it talks. It tells me, at least, that this is a child with a syndrome known as Down syndrome. And on the basis of this, I think is that I see a flat nasal bridge, an upward slant of the palpebral fissures, a short nose, and generally this is a pensive or distressed individual. And Gauguin is not the only one that paid attention. Other artists also paid attention to similar faces, and here we have then the same features: flat nasal bridge, short upturned nose, slant and narrow palpebral fissures, a characteristic oral opening. In any case, the point is, yes, there were many people that noted this, but none connected one case with the next. It was only by the 1860s that the term Mongolism arose, and then individuals begin to realize that this is a category of a medical disorder. You can stop the motion and read the rest. And here then is another depiction of another individual, another face, but interestingly, both come from the same painting, the same artist, have the same signs, and there are other many artistic depictions of such individuals with very similar signs. So what this implies is that if you have a similar facies, then it is a similar disorder. The cause or mechanism, how you get there, is a common pathogenesis. And the cause why you trigger this expression mechanism must also have something in common. Therefore, you can wrap all of that and call it a diagnosis. And then implication is the prognosis. As indicated, until about the 1860s, people did not distinguish subcategories of what they called then idiocy. But John Langdon Down called this the Mongoloid type. Racial types and racism were very much in vogue in England in those years. So this is not the subject of this presentation, so we'll let you see more about this point somewhere else. But by 1958, a discovery was made that most individuals with Down syndrome had an extra chromosome, and this chromosome was number 21. And soon thereafter, the term Mongolism was discontinued because certainly the Republic of Mongolia did not appreciate it, and substituted by Down syndrome. And then comes another surprise, sexism. Well, we just collided with sexism without any intent, and it was a surprise for us. Apparently, there is very strong evidence to dispute the credit given to Dr. Lejeune, and that the credit belongs to his co-worker Martha Gautier. The point here is that this story illustrates why we need to remember several principles. That most of us can train our eyes to see signs. Certainly artists do train their eyes, and they develop acute vision. Fine artists, just like clinicians, should be able to recognize signs. But for centuries, artists could not recognize from these signs what were the signals, what was the significance in medical terms. So to see signs as signals in medicine, it requires some intelligence combined with experience. And along the way here, we need to also recognize that sexism persists and is pervasive, and such history should be recognized and cleaned. So this brings us to the end of this short story. I hope you enjoyed it. It exposed Gauguin and facies, Down syndrome and sexism. The sources, if you are interested in, concerning the terminology and concerning the images, because images are words as well, we have a companion website, Pandora Word Box. And here you're going to find more about Gauguin's work, as well as the medical implications. The source for the clinical perspective is taken from Clinical Eye Openers. Those of you who are interested in this approach will notice a gallery of images and videos, and for instance, this tongue speaks of Down syndrome, this eye speaks of Down syndrome, this is a pseudo Down syndrome, that is a look-alike. Here is an aspect of synthesis of the signs and symptoms of this syndrome. So you are welcome to explore Clinical Eye Openers. There is also a companion tutorial concerned with facies, which here is presented in a perspective of a clinician. It is a short tutorial. You may find it of interest. For those of you who want to virtually become experts in the subject, there are many galleries, videos, and overviews dedicated to Down syndrome and related aspects. For instance, here you have 3 trailers. They are short in English and Ukrainian that will give an idea of these elements here. And you could see that we have adults, we have children, we have infants. All of these are, let's say, equivalent to attending a real medical clinic, because these are real patients under real circumstances. So this brings us to an end, and this offers me an opportunity to say, please visit us again, and to extend to you until then our best wishes. Goodbye.